Ryan Browne is a top quarterback in the nation.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host for today. I'm Nick Arvin, and we're talking everything about the 1-0 Purdue Boilermakers. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. There's so much to talk about and what was an amazing week one win Saturday against Ball State. And on this overreaction Monday, I lead off to you guys to tell you why, what I saw, and why I believe Ryan Browne is a top quarterback, not just in the Big Ten, but in the nation. We're talking Ryan Browne here in our first segment. In our second segment for today, we'll talk who were the biggest surprises on Purdue's roster in that ball game. And then we'll have a Big Ten update. What are the teams on Purdue's schedules? How did they perform in week one? What can Purdue expect going on this year? We'll have all that for you and more, but we're going to go ahead and lead out with why Ryan Browne is a top quarterback in the nation. And obviously, maybe a bit of an overreaction, maybe you have a hot take coming out of week one. Yes, it was against Ball State, but that's not what I'm talking about. Ryan Browne was the only quarterback in the Big Ten to throw for 300 yards. And he didn't just get it done in the air. He got it done with his feet too. Scored a touchdown on his feet on the second drive of the game. And honestly, it just kept going from there. Ryan Browne was so successful in that week one matchup against Ball State, even towards the end of the first half when that pocket started to collapse, whenever Brenton Joyner went out of the game, the offensive line was kind of scrambling. He was still able to make things happen. He was able to get out of the pocket. He was able to extend the plays. And the biggest thing that I'm able to say about Ryan Browne is that whenever he got into trouble, whenever he had to extend the play, whenever he had to be that improviser that we know that he's capable of being, whenever he threw the ball, I almost had like a faith that Ryan Browne was going to be able to find a receiver every single time the ball left his hand. It was right on the money. And I hate to bring this guy up, but it honestly felt like a reincarnation of Drew Brees out there. I'm not trying to put Drew Brees and Ryan Browne comparisons yet, but just the way that he played the game, the way that Ryan Browne performed week one, the high IQ, the knowing where your receivers are going to be before they're even there. It was really Aiden O'Connell-esque. It was really Drew Brees-esque. And I'm so excited about Ryan Browne. I'm so excited about what he can be because going into week one, I honestly didn't know what Ryan Browne would be. He was in a quarterback battle with Malachi Singleton for most of the fall. And obviously, we knew what Ryan Browne was last year. We saw him against Illinois, but we didn't really have a full scope of who he is as a quarterback because he was only on the field for a limited amount of time. And he jumps into Ball State and he gives you everything you could possibly ask for if you're a Boilermakers fan. He opens the game up, play action. That's a hold on Armand Branch and that 15 yards. And then going forward, Devin Mockabee runs it on the right side, 10-yard gain, and then the big play happens. Play action, fake it to Mockabee, and fire down the field. Armand Branch on that go ball. I think it was a post route, actually, but he finds Armand Branch, and Armand Branch takes it all the way to the house. And talk about Ryan Browne. Not just did he deliver that ball, but he was getting hit when he delivered that ball. Ryan Browne was so good in that game. Oh my gosh. Throws are 2 touchdowns on the day. Throws to one Armand Branch, throws one to Michael Jackson III, who we'll talk more about here on this episode. And then, like I said, he runs that one in on the second drive of the game and gets Purdue on the board. And that's what we talked about going into that game against Ball State. When you face off against these group of 5 teams, the key to success is getting out early. A lot of these Big Ten teams, whether that be on Thursday, Friday, or even on Saturday, They didn't get to a hot start, and they let these teams hang around for way too long. And Purdue didn't do that. They came out firing. They came out with Mockabee. They came out with Browne. And of course, they came out with Armand Branch, who performed so well. In training camp, we saw that Browne and Branch connection has really been hot. I don't know if we knew how hot. Armand Branch had 101 yards in the first quarter on 3 receptions, which was absolutely insane. But when you think about what Ryan Browne can be this year with Armand Branch as his receiver one, if Armand Branch can consistently get open, if Ryan Browne can consistently find Armand Branch, Purdue is going to be really good this year because those two guys are electric. And I can't say enough about Ryan Browne. I can't say enough about Armand Branch. And then on that one drive, second half, Michael Jackson, I believe it was an 11-yard touchdown. Michael Jackson slant into the end zone, and that ball was so hot off Ryan Browne's hands. He puts it in the perfect position every single time for his receiver and his receiver only. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't throw an interception, didn't fumble against Ball State. And the reason for that is he didn't get lucky. Every single ball that he threw was right on the money. And not just balls that he threw, he makes high IQ plays. Whenever Purdue was in the end zone or in the red zone, looking to get into the end zone, there was a play where the pocket started to collapse. He rolls outside the pocket, and it's kind of chaotic in the end zone, not really anybody open. In third down, instead of forcing the throw into the end zone, he runs, slides, and elects to take the points. And it's a high IQ play because in that position of the game, you're already up. You don't want to do anything to lose that momentum. And Ryan Browne has been so good at maintaining momentum, making the right play, and always having a high IQ when he does that. And that's why I say he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country when this year is said and done. I think that he's a top quarterback in the Big Ten as it is. And that performance in week one just cemented that fact. When you talk about these quarterbacks in the Big Ten, we saw some inconsistencies, whether that be Preston Stone at Northwestern, who we've talked a lot about, throwing 4 interceptions in that ball game. Wisconsin kind of struggled in that one to find offense. A lot of struggles in the Big Ten. There were some successes. Jaden Mava played good game for USC. We'll see him week 3. Kind of launched, and I think USC scored 61 points or something crazy in that game. Maybe it was 71. I think it was 61. I'd have to check back. But anyways, Jay Malava was good. There were several quarterbacks that were good. But like I said, Ryan Browne was the only quarterback in the Big Ten to throw for 300 yards. And he didn't even play the full game. Malachi Singleton plugged in that last drive. And if Ryan Browne got another drive under his belt, obviously they probably wouldn't be throwing it a whole lot, up 31 points. But I just can't speak highly enough of Ryan Browne. He is a top quarterback in the nation. He's a top quarterback in the Big Ten, and he's going to carry Purdue on his back this year. And even when you think of Devin Mockabee probably didn't get as many touches as we're going to expect Devin Mockabee to have, but he didn't need to get the touches because Ryan Browne was on fire. Before this game, I said Devin Mockabee needs to get 5 touches on the opening drive to open up that play action. And that's something I did believe. I believe that this Purdue team is best when you run the ball with Devin Mockabee. This team is the best when you're able to kind of get that run game open, and then that opens up the play action. But we saw that Barry Odom didn't care about that. The threat of Devin Mockabee was enough, getting him the touches or not, because they opened the game with play action, and they fire and they strike and they find success with that formula. And now the fact of the matter is you can't stop Devin Mockabee. You can't stop Ryan Browne, and you sure as heck can't stop both. I'm so excited for what Ryan Browne's going to be. I'm so excited for what he is. And the crazy thing is 3 years of Ryan Browne. He's a redshirt sophomore this year. Considering the fact that I assume that he'll stay if he has a successful year this year. Obviously, college football is crazy with the portal and all that. But if he is able to stay, if he's able to be consistent, and if he's able to continuously show what he showed in this first game of the year, he may be able to bring Purdue back. and we'll talk about that. We're going to talk more about some of these surprisers that really showed up and some guys that I thought really stunned, and that could be very key pieces for Purdue this year. We'll talk that here next. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. Look at this beautiful hat right here, courtesy of the game. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price that they did back then. When you use code LOCKED ON, you'll get your vintage hat for $16.99. That's a great deal. If you head on over to thegamecaps.com, grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code LOCKED ON for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than a game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices, jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Maybe you want to make it out to Mackey this winter. Hey, maybe make it out to Ross-Ade. Ross-Ade was pumped up Saturday. Well, you can do that with our friends over at Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. In our previous segment, we talked about Ryan Browne, just how good he was. And even though everybody knows that he was good, I think it was a bit of a surprise just how good he was. I'm not going to talk about him anymore today, but I am going to talk about a few guys who really kind of turned my head that I didn't expect to show out the way that they showed out Saturday. And we can talk about Arvin Branch. We can talk about how successful he was. But we saw all fall camp. That was Ryan Browne's number one guy. But there is another receiver that I do want to talk about, and that's nothing against Arvin Branch. He's the receiver one for a reason. He's a dog. He's so good. But there is a guy that really did surprise me, and that's the smooth criminal himself, Michael Jackson the third. He really performed well, and I can't say that enough. I didn't know how big of a role Michael Jackson would have in this game. I didn't know how much of a role he would have for this team, kind of the connection that Ryan Browne and Michael Jackson would have, because obviously Arvin Branch is kind of the receiver one, and then Morissette, he didn't play. He was hurt, and that really gave Jackson an opportunity to shine, and that he did. He earned his spot as a starter in that receiving core, and he had a great game, going for 76 yards, and then that big touchdown we talked about earlier, that slant route into the end zone where Ryan Browne fired off a laser at our guy. And I can't speak highly enough of how good Michael Jackson was in this one. It felt like any time that Ryan Browne needed a receiver to throw to, Michael Jackson was the guy. He was like a safety blanket almost for Ryan Browne. Obviously, Ryan Browne likes his big hitters over the top to Arvin Branch, but whenever that pocket collapsed, whenever Ryan Browne had to roll out, whenever he had to look a little bit longer for a guy, it felt like Michael Jackson always was able to find himself open somehow, some way. And 76 yards kind of were the reward for that. He was so good in this game, does his Michael Jackson dance after his touchdown in the third quarter. And he had 6 receptions on the day, which most receptions on the team, I believe the highest next was 3. So doubles the highest receptions. And we see, even though Arvin Branch in the first quarter was the big hitter, Ryan Browne and Arvin Branch really get along well. Michael Jackson was consistent throughout the game. He got consistent targets and consistently caught the ball, was able to extend drives for Purdue, and was able to just kind of be a guy that was there and was consistent. You can trust that Michael Jackson is going to be there. And that's so exciting for Purdue. It's so exciting that when you bring a guy like Morissette back, when you have a guy like Armand Branch, and then you have the production that Michael Jackson shows, that's a 3-guy receiving core. It's very talented. That's one of the top receiving corps that's going to be honestly a little bit underrated this year. And I'm really excited about what Purdue's receiving core can be. Nitro Tuggle is going to be another guy that may show out. But Michael Jackson was my big surprise on offense. I was very impressed with what Michael Jackson was going to do, or what he's going to do this year. I was very impressed with what he did do week 1 against Ball State. On the defensive side of the ball, I want to talk about 2 guys. The first one being Mr. Manny Powell. Manny Powell was all over the field. And we talked about this linebacker core this year is going to be so good for Purdue. We talked about Sanders Ellis, kind of what he's brought from Tennessee State all summer long. And he had a good game week 1, but Manny Powell was different in that one. He was all over the field. Khalil Kelly, Ball State's quarterback, really wanted to get out of the pocket for a lot of that game. Didn't really test the DBs a whole lot, but what he did test were those linebackers, and the linebackers came to play, and Manny Powell came to play. There were a few times where Khalil Kelly was able to get out of the pocket, and Manny Powell ran that man down the length of the field, took a great angle. And that was something I saw that he was really good at, taking the good angles and making sure that he had the right angle to be able to stop that quarterback run. And that's kind of what you have to do. You have to rely on the talent at linebacker that you have whenever you pair up against a team that wants to run with their quarterback and are able to find success in that system the way that Ball State kind of was able to do. So great things for Manny Powell. And then the one thing I did want to talk about with him was Ball State was, I believe they were on Purdue's side of the field, kind of one of those drives where they were getting it going a little bit, not totally in sync, but they were getting it into Purdue territory. It was 3rd down, and then Purdue sends a blitz, and Manny Powell lit Khalil Kelly up. It was one of the craziest blitz packages. It worked perfectly, but Manny Powell came off the edge like a freight train. Pardon my pun, but he was off the edge like a train, and he wrecked Khalil Kelly. That was honestly crazy, and that's kind of how I knew that Manny Powell needed to be included in this segment today. That was insane. He had 5 tackles on the game, I believe. Let me check that just to make sure that's true. Yes, 5 total tackles, 4 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. So great game for Manny Powell. And then for my last surprise on this segment, I want to talk about another guy and another linebacker, that being Charles Carrera. Charles Carrera also really impressed me, and it makes me realize that these linebackers are going to be so good this year. Manny Powell, Charles Carrera, and Sanders Ellis. That's like a group that's going to be a top linebacker core in terms of kind of what the Big Ten is this year. I don't see many teams being able to compete with kind of what these guys were able to do. And Charles Carrera is just a sophomore, but that man doesn't look like a sophomore. That is a grown man out there, and he was able to stop everything. Anything that Manny Powell wasn't able to get to, Charles Carrera was able to get to. Those 2 guys play the perfect brand of football, and they really kind of complement each other. I really enjoyed what those 2 guys were able to do. Carrera's from Hawaii, so a Hawaiian linebacker. Where have we seen that story before? But he's a dog, absolute dog. And week 1 against Ball State, we talked about how Ryan Browne really impressed, how we kind of realized that not only do we have a star running back, but we have a quarterback that is really capable of making throws, and not just capable, but a winning type of quarterback. But on the defensive side of the ball, it made me realize that these linebackers are so excellent. And if these linebackers are able to continue to play the way that they did against Ball State, I think that they will be just fine going into Big Ten play. I think that this will be a very competent defense, and that linebacker core is the hope that this defense has. Traditionally, Purdue has been historically good at the linebacker position, and even at the edge. Ryan Kerrigan was back at Purdue week 1, and I feel like that was the perfect guy to be there because those linebackers, those edge rushers really balled out. Those were my bigger surprises for week one. So excited to see what those guys do week two. In this next segment, I want to talk about these Big Ten teams that played this week. Some underperformed, some overperformed. Purdue being one that overperformed. We'll talk about those teams here next. We have a really important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer the questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find that link in the show notes. Thank you guys for helping us out. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something to go beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal and brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula is able to dissolve under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in just 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked for you, Rugiet might be the answer because over 150,000 men have already made that switch. And you can too if you just head over to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege to get 15% off today. That's rugiet.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code lockedoncollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Let's talk Big Ten. Let's talk Purdue's opponents and kind of just talk teams on the schedule that Purdue's going to face and what happened in week one, what we kind of know now, because before the season started, it's kind of hard to garner. We did our schedule prediction here on the show, but it's hard to know how good all these teams are honestly going to be before first snap. But we have week one. Week one is a go. Purdue fans are excited about week one. Great week one for the Boilermakers. But for some teams, they didn't have the success that Purdue had. And one of those teams started out Big Ten play. That was Thursday night, and that was Rutgers. Rutgers played Ohio, not Ohio State, the Ohio Bobcats. Of the MAC conference, they played the Ohio Bobcats, and not a great showing for Rutgers, honestly. Quarterback had a great night. Kaliak, I'm not even going to try. He's a good quarterback. Athan Kaliak Akamani's with names. But anyways, he had a solid day, 252, 2 touchdowns. But Rutgers was only able to win on a last-second field goal, and Ohio looked like the better team for most parts of that second half. And that's a team that is on Purdue's schedule. Purdue takes on Rutgers at home, and that's going to be one that is winnable for Purdue. And if Purdue has aspirations of winning or making it to a bowl game, then Rutgers is going to be a must-win on that schedule. I'm a lot more confident about beating Rutgers after that week one performance. And another team that's on Purdue's schedule that played Thursday night was Minnesota. They were in a battle with Buffalo, and down to the final quarter of that game, it was a one-score game. Darius Taylor had a big game, 30 carries, 141 yards. And we know that if Darius Taylor is getting 30 carries against Buffalo of all teams, then what's he going to do against these Big Ten teams where Minnesota needs to rely on him to spark that offense? It kind of seems to me like Darius Taylor is going to be a strong majority of Minnesota's offense this year, and there's no problem with that. Great running back, great guy. But I think that Minnesota is a beatable team this year. I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year. They were 7-5, I believe, last year. So solid year. PJ Fleck is looking to kind of build that team into something special, but I don't know if they're going to take the jump this year. I wasn't too impressed with Minnesota. Lindsley looked decent, 290 and 2 touchdowns, but not great efficiency, 19 for 35. So got a lot of opportunities to throw the ball. Minnesota kind of dominated that time of possession, but really wasn't too overly impressed with Minnesota. Nebraska got it done against Cincinnati. And then Wisconsin, that was one to watch. Wisconsin was in a 3-0 game with Miami of Ohio going into halftime, which was absolutely insane for Minnesota and for Luke Fickell, who's looking to maintain his job over there in Madison. That's going to be interesting because if Wisconsin's not able to produce on offense this year, which they weren't able to do against Miami of Ohio, they're going to be in for a struggle. Moving on, Western Illinois. Illinois got that one done 52-3. Not much to talk about there. Illinois is going to be very good this year. That offense is deadly. We take them on week 6 at home. That'll be a fun one. Last year, that was a great game to watch. Ryan Browne's kind of debut taking on those Illinois Illini. That was a big game. I'm excited for that one this year. Illinois is going to be super good. I can't speak highly of them enough. Michigan State takes care of Western Michigan pretty easy. Not much to really go over there. We're not going to see Michigan State this year. Ohio State and Texas. That one was interesting because we talked all like off season long about how big this game is going to be for both Texas and for Ohio State. I went out and I said that Texas was going to win this one on the Big Ten Squad Show. And I thought that Arch Manning was going to play better than he did. Arch Manning really didn't play great at all. Texas offense just looked so dysfunctional, and Ohio State honestly looked great. They lose a bunch of guys this past year, whether that's to the portal or to graduation, to the draft. But that defense looks right back where they were last year when they won the national championship. So Ohio State is going to be a team to beat this year. I think they'll jump up to 1 when the AP drops tomorrow or today, whenever y'all are watching this. But Ohio State looks just as good. Once again, Julian Sayin has some work to do, but more reps, he'll get better. And I think that Ohio State will be nasty. Penn State, they're going to be the team competing with Ohio State this year. They killed Nevada 46-11. Drew Aller had a good game. Not much to say about that one. Penn State's a good team. They deserve to win that game. Oregon State, 59-13 over Montana State. And I think the biggest highlight of that game was the Oregon Duck losing his head. I didn't watch that game. I don't care about Oregon and Montana State, to be honest. I saw the Duck lose his head, though. So that was funny. Oregon will be good. Another great Big Ten team. They're going to be one to beat, one to watch. More great quarterback over there. Throws for 213 and 3 touchdowns on the day. Michigan, I wasn't overly impressed with Michigan. They played New Mexico State. They play them pretty close. It was a 7-point game going into the fourth quarter. So, I mean, okay. Bryce Underwood in his first start, 251 yards. Okay. He'll be good, but wasn't overly impressed with Michigan. I think they'll be solid this year, but we'll see. Indiana, this is the one I do want to cover before we get off the air today. Indiana didn't look good at all. Indiana played really close with Old Dominion. They played the Old Dominion Royals. I didn't find what Indiana did impressive at all. They were only up 10 points at the half. Fernando Mendoza didn't play good at all. Didn't throw for a touchdown. Ryan Browne looked much better than Fernando Mendoza did. And they're saying that he's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft this year. Wasn't impressed with Indiana. It'll be seen. Obviously, Indiana doesn't play any notable teams and they're out of conference. Their schedule's pretty light this year, but I'd say the first big test for Indiana this year is going to be probably Illinois. I think that whenever they play Illinois week 4, Illinois will give them a piece of their medicine. I'm not too impressed with Indiana. Maybe Indiana's better than they let on week 1, but I really didn't see it. Maryland beats Florida Atlantic. Purdue obviously dominates Ball State. Big game. And then Northwestern Tulane. John Sumrall, who I love, great head coach at Tulane. He talks about how they were going to wear the white jerseys for the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina because that's what Tulane did right after. And Northwestern says no, and they get killed. They get beat by 20 to Tulane. Northwestern's going to be the bottom of the Big Ten this year. I've been saying it all offseason long. Not impressed with Preston Stone at all. Didn't win the job at SMU. He's not going to be able to compete against Big Ten defenses. Throws 4 interceptions, no touchdowns. Brutal day for Northwestern. Brutal day for Preston Stone. And then Iowa wins. And then USC, I said 71. That I was wrong about that earlier in the show. They actually scored 73 points in that game against Missouri State, 73-13. USC's looking deadly. Obviously not against much competition. It's going to be much different when they come to Ross-Ade. But that's the game that I'm a little bit scared of. I said that Purdue has the chance to beat USC. I think that there is an opportunity, but they really have to control the time of possession and not let USC's offense touch the field, because Jaden Mayava looks like a Heisman candidate, and that USC offense looks really deadly. UCLA kind of got dog walked by Utah. That game was ugly. Washington pulls it off against Colorado State, and that was the last game in that light slate. We'll face off against Washington towards the end of the year in that brutal last month stretch. I think that Washington will be good. I think they'll be in the AP poll pretty soon, and I think that that team under Jed Fish will kind of get back on track, kind of to where Kalen DeBoer had them, which that's a whole nother topic for another day. They lose to Florida State, and Alabama fans are mad about it. Obviously, you see the guy throw the finger out at the broadcast. But a lot to see in the Big Ten, and honestly, Purdue looks like one of the better teams in the Big Ten. I'm going to be arguing Purdue's case this Wednesday. It'll air Thursday on the Big Ten Squad Show. But thank you guys once again for joining Locked On Boilermakers today. If you guys made Locked On Boilermakers your first listen today, I really do appreciate that. We're pumping out daily content, something so unique to what we do here on Locked On. And we launched Locked On Boilermakers about a month ago. We got some really exciting things coming for you guys. Football season's here. You guys want all the updates on everything Boilermakers, and we got it here for you guys. And then it's another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Thank you guys. We have super exciting things going around on Locked On. Subscribe to Locked On Boilermakers. And as always, boiler up, hammer down.